Hey guys, so today my wife left me in charge of feeding the cats as she had some errands to run this morning, and this turned out to be a problem for me because I could not find the can opener. We have a manual can opener and we had a electric can opener which she decided she didn't want to use anymore because it was too hard to clean and there was a lot of germs and things that are associated with opening cans that builds up over time. So we did have a manual one, and where it is in our kitchen I have no idea. But what I'm going to show you today is four separate methods. Three I'm going to use tools, and one I'm going to use a simple method that is so easy to use. Anybody could use it, even if you were hiking through a forest and didn't have any of the tools I'm going to mention. So opening a can, especially if it's a rolled top can, the way it's sealed is really important. That's one of those things, and there may be other methods they use to seal cans, but the rolled top type tin can is the best way. One thing I will tell you, you need to absolutely be wearing gloves on these methods because these cans are extremely sharp and they can hurt you, cut you very quickly. Another method I absolutely would not use is something like a kitchen torch. The can can swell up at the top and it can break the seal and then spray a hot liquid or something, whatever the contents are, and you'll get a really bad scalding burn. The other method I would not use is using a very long kitchen knife, stabbing it into the can or hammering the top of it, because your hand could slip, you could damage the knife, and you could damage your countertop. So there's just different ways to do this, but I don't think those, and I see a lot of people using those methods, but I don't think that's the best way to do it. So I'm going to show you three of the safer ways, and one way that's so simple you don't even need a tool to do it. You just need a little bit of ingenuity. So I'll get started. I'll bring you in a little bit closer so you can see exactly how to open a can without a can opener. So our cats will be very happy once I get this process finished. And I'll show you a quick photo of one of those cats right now. Now, the first thing I'm going to show you is you need to have some type of rough surface like concrete. If you're hiking through a forest, you can use a smooth, flat stone that has a rough outer edge. And what we're trying to do here is we're trying to break the seal around this rolled area of the tin can. But you're just going to take the can and turn it over, and you're going to rub it back and forth. And that will eventually start to wear away at this seal that you see across the top. A couple of things you want to make sure you do is you need to, once you get the can open, you want to make sure there's no metal fragments or anything like that in there. You just need to do this very slow and steady, and that way, once you start to see any liquid come out, you know you've broken the seal, and then you can move forward like that. So let's start this first. I'm going to do this in fast forward because it's going to take several minutes, and I don't know you get bored really quickly by watching that. So let's just do this in a quick motion, and I'll show you how it works. I don't know if you can see this very clearly, but I'll try to hold it close to the camera. We've broken the seal there, and one of the lessons I've learned is the first block I used was far too smooth. This needs to be rough, almost like driveway cement. This actually will work better if you do this on poured concrete rather than one of these professionally made blocks. So as you can see around the edges, we've broken the seal. The next thing you want to do is to carefully open it, but be very careful about getting any of the metal shavings. So we want to carefully wipe it. We don't want to rinse it because it would wash something back down into it, but we're going to carefully wipe it with a rag and get it as clean as possible before we pry it open. The seal has been broken, so it's ready to go to step two. Now, whatever you're using to pry it, I'm using a Japanese hori-hori knife, and this is really a great garden tool I've had for many years. But anyways, we'll carefully put it there into the seam. And like I said, I don't like the idea of jabbing the knife into the top, because I think it can cause too big of a risk for injury to your hand, your countertop, wherever you're at. So you can use it as a pry mechanism, and you just go around carefully prying it very slowly. You're not doing any sudden movements. As you can see, the can top, these gloves are very important too. Whatever size can you got, the glove is the most important thing because you can really cut yourself. So you can see it right there. We look in the can. I'm looking very carefully around the edges. The way this top is pushed in is pressed down on it, so even though you're breaking the outer lid, you still have a little bit of depth there. So I'm looking very carefully, make sure I'm not seeing any shavings, no dust, no dirt. It's all on the outside of the can there. So that's our first step, using something as simple as concrete or a concrete block to get your can open. Again, these edges can be super sharp, so be very careful when you're handling it. And even around this outer rim, again, super sharp like a razor blade. So let's go on to the next step of how to get into a can without a can opener. So let's start with our spoon method. And what you're going to do is you're going to put the spoon around the edge and you're going to put some force on it, and you're just going to go back and forth. Again, make sure you're wearing the gloves, and as you can see, it's starting to dent the top of the can. We're just trying to get a slight breakthrough there. Okay, that was probably 30 seconds or less, and we've already broken through the seal. We're just going to work our way around the can. See, that we're already in the can quite well. Just going to keep working our way around there. You wouldn't think a spoon would be this effective at opening a can because it's such a rounded, but it's just very narrow. And again, the gloves, super important. I hate to keep repeating myself, but that's something that if you cut your hand badly with one of these tin tops, it can be very serious. I would even recommend using something thicker than these, but these have been some really good garden gloves, and I haven't punctured them yet, so we should be okay. We're just going to keep working our way around the lid, try not to put too much force on it. Back and forth mechanism like that. And just slowly turn the can. I'm having to use a little bit of elbow grease there, but we're halfway through and we're just going to go maybe 3/4 so we can pull the lid up. It's almost like the spoon is actually cutting the metal, but it's actually just pushing it apart through the force of your hand. There we go. We're just going to carefully pry it up with a spoon. And again, this is like a razor blade, both inside and this top. So just be sure that you're wearing a good pair of gloves. I even recommend something like this, my heavy duty leather gloves. These again are rubberized on the front, so we're good there. So that's our second method by using a spoon. Now next is our pizza cutter method. It's a little bit different than our spoon method, but on the pizza cutter, you're just going to roll back and forth slowly, putting just a little bit of pressure on it. Back and forth, you're just trying to make a little dent in there, and you just keep working in that same groove. Okay, in less than 30 seconds, I'm through the can. Now what we want to do is we're going to make a cross here. So we're just going to turn the can. Now, even though we've broken through, we want to make the same thing in this direction. Okay, we're getting close there. It's a little bit harder to see because of the liquid on the surface. We're just going to keep going back and forth. You don't have to put a lot of pressure, but you just want to keep that same movement back and forth. Now we're broken through that way and this way, so we can just keep going until we have a wider opening there. Okay, flip it back this way. This method is a little bit messier, especially if you've had a lot of liquid in the can. If it's a solid, something like some type of potted meat or sardines or something like that doesn't have as much liquid, it's not going to be as messy, but this is sardines in water. Okay, we're already through that way. We're going to use our pizza cutter to push open the ends. Make sure we're all the way to the edge as far as we can to each edge of the can. That way we can pull it back as far as we need to. Remember your gloves. And just keep pulling it back on all 4 corners. And you can get this out by dumping it or putting a spoon into it. But just remember that, and I know I'm repeating myself over and over, but these gloves are so critical because these are like razor blades now. So you can either spoon that out or just dump it out into another container. Okay, so our fourth method involves just an ordinary house key. And this is if you're really deep in the forest, you can use something like a house key and a rock. But in this case, since I'm in my greenhouse / workshop, I'm going to use a hammer, and you're just going to take it, you're going to put the key right at the edge, and you're just going to give it some light taps. So I've changed up gloves because this is a little bit more protection against accidentally hitting myself with a hammer. So let's just start right there on one side and go around the perimeter. And we're going to flip the key because we've got some of these little bridges here we have to break through. So we're just going to flip the key to its smaller side up. Now we're making larger breaks there, and we're just setting it back into each groove. That way, as it goes in, it'll widen out that hole. We're getting close there. Okay, we're very close to having it where we can pry it back. Again, important that we're using gloves. So there you have it. It's a lot more labor intensive on the key, but if that's all you have is a key and a rock, you could get into a can if you were out hiking on the trail and you suddenly realized you had forgotten your can opener. That is one way to do it. Also, you want to make sure you're using a house key because automotive keys are very easily damaged and they're a lot more expensive to get replaced. So I wouldn't recommend using an automotive key, only a house key, something that only costs a few dollars to have it replaced. So guys, whichever method you decide to use, one really important thing is to inspect the can carefully because there could be a small piece of metal that might have broken free and it's still in the food item, whatever it is. But in an emergency situation where you don't have a can opener, something like this could be a lifesaver. Whether you're in a snowstorm or you're in a hurricane or you're lost out on the trail and all you've got is something simple like a key and a stone, you can get into a item you might have in your backpack thinking that there's no way to open a can without completely smashing it up against between two large boulders or something. So this method will work, but again, safety is paramount, using a very thick pair of gloves that will protect you from any cuts. You don't want to be in an emergency situation and still have an even worse problem where you've got a really bad cut. So just remember, that's important. And now we're going to have some very happy cats because I'm going to feed them these 4 cans of tuna until my wife gets home and she'll take over the duties of cat wrangling. So guys, I make a variety of videos. Sorry, we're getting some sunset here today, and I know it's making my face glow in certain areas. But anyways, I make videos about every topic that I find interesting, and my main topic is about gardening and bonsai, but I go off in all kind of tangents all the time and make other videos about things that I find interesting. So if you want to, take a look at the back catalog of videos. If you have any questions, please subscribe first because I put those as a priority to answering any questions you might have. So once you subscribe, leave your question. I'll try to give you an answer or an honest answer as quickly as possible due to you subscribing to me and doing me that big favor. So guys, have a great day, and I appreciate you watching.